Let me remind you this morning about your dream. You remember? Let me ask you the question, how big is it? How big is your dream? It could be so big that you think it is never going to come to pass. But good news, God is a God who's a big God who can do the impossible. Your dream may look so big it looks impossible. You know, it was God that placed that dream on the inside of you, and over the years, He's shown you new things. He's grown you. He's helped you develop skill sets, and that dream has gone from medium to large. That's one of the things, maybe even to extra large. That's one of the things I've recognized about God. When He gives you a dream, it's never small. It may start out small. In fact, the Bible tells us, don't despise humble beginnings. But it didn't say just because you had a humble beginning, it doesn't mean it's a small dream or a little dream. That dream that's on the inside of you is not small. In fact, I've never had a person come to me that's been called to the ministry who's ever said to me, you know, Scott, the Lord's called me into the ministry and He said I'm going to preach to 2 people. No, it's always, the Lord's told me I'm going to preach to millions. Okay. See, God puts a big dream on the inside of you. And even though that person may never preach to millions, it wasn't that God minimized that dream. It wasn't that God downsized it. No. And at the same time, God doesn't do these types of things to leave you hanging. He gives you the tools that you need to see it come true. And one of those tools is change. You know, over the years, I've been called by many. In fact, the Lord told me this years ago. He said, Scott, I've called you to be an agent of change. He said, I'm going to send you places, not for those places to change you, but for you to change those places. And I would find myself in situations and in places where that's exactly what happened. Yes, change. Now, some people are scared of that. It's not something to resist. God has placed, what we've said before, peeled branches, agents of change in your life to help take that dream to the next step, to the next level. And so instead of getting discouraged and resisting change, embrace it. Embrace it. I remember years ago when we left what had become so familiar to us, because I'd been working in this organization for 20 years. Missy had been working in this organization, the same organization, for 23 years. We'd been promoted throughout those decades that we'd been there to high levels where we were directors in that organization. 2 of the 10 that sat around a table and determined the direction of that organization, where it was going under the leadership, certainly submitting to the leadership there. And I remember when the Lord started awakening that dream of the next stage in my life, and I remember it just wouldn't leave me alone. And it wasn't a small dream, it was a big dream. Well, you know what? It came with a drastic change, because I had to move from Fort Worth, Texas, where I was quite comfortable and loved what I did as director of television, to Amarillo, Texas, with 3 little boys and a wife who just simply said, I trust God. I trust God. I trust you, Scott, that you hear from God, and I trust God that He's talking to you, and that He's put this dream in your heart, and He's going to see it come to pass. Well, that was a huge change, big change. The only reason and the only way I could embrace that change was by being willing to accept the fact that change is a part of me getting to my dream. Well, God will send change to help bring your dream from your heart into reality. So don't give up on your dream, no matter how big or how small that dream is, because all things are possible, even when they look impossible, even though the odds may be stacked against you. I have people all over the United States of America that in one way or another I have helped them. In fact, I got a call from a young man just a few weeks ago who said to me, I don't know if you realize this, but I am living in my dream today because of you. Well, you know, that just brings a great joy to your heart. He's become very successful and having 10 or 12 editors working for his own production company and post-production company. And I remember the day I hired that young man, he knew nothing about television production, absolutely nothing. And so I pretty much put him in the video library. But then there came an opportunity that arose where in time I put him in a room with technical engineers to help him learn the processes of television production. As he grew up in that, he really wanted to become an editor. And so I put him in that position. There was not a single producer that wanted to work for him or work with him. There was not a single director that wanted to work with him, but I forced them to. I said, no, you're going to work with him. Today, see, over 12 years later, 15 years later, today he owns his own company and he edits the greatest, he is the editor of these ministries that are all over the United States of America. And I could sit here and list them to you. Andrew Womack and Joyce Meyer and Kenneth Copeland and Gloria Copeland, the list goes on. And he does it in his own post-production company. And he called me and he said, I'm where I am today because you gave me a chance when no one else would, and you believed in me and believed in the dream that I had on the inside of me all along. We're here simply to remind you of your dream, to awaken your dream. Why? Because it's time for you to possess it. It's time for you to grab hold of it and take ownership and say, you can't have this. This one's mine.